Crispin, the Cross of Lead, Chapter 21. He led us to a grove of trees. There he flung himself down and told me to do the same. That done, he called for his sack. He rummaged in it, producing more bread, which he tore and gave me half. When we had been silent for a while, I, still brooding over my unhappy fate, he said, "I don't think you care for me." "I have no choice," I said. "Will you like one?" "God's will be done," I said. He shrugged and said, "You might not believe it, but I was fated to be a priest in the city of York. That's far to the north." I looked at him anew. Father Cornell was the only priest I had ever known. This huge man could not have been more different. "It seems my father grew weary of me," Bear continued, "said I caused too much trouble and ate too much. In truth," he added with sudden bitterness, "I suspect he offered me to God to fulfill a pledge he made in exchange for some profitable trade. Though I ask you, what kind of man would exchange a boy for a sack of wool?" His question made me think upon my father. I tried to imagine what kind of man he might have been if he had lived, and if he would have done such a thing with me. "A punctilious man, my father," Bear went on. "He paid my fees in full, gave me his hasty blessing, and walked away. I never saw him more, willy-nilly. I was enrolled in the Benedictine Abbey to be a monk, 12 years of age, younger than you, and already in robes, an acolyte." "Did you become a monk?" I said. "I was at the Abbey for 7 years. I learned how to pray, how to be silent. I learned to read Latin, French, even English. There's that. It keeps me from the gallows." "Why?" I said, for in spite of myself, I found myself interested in his story. "The law. If you can read, you're treated as a priest. Common law does not allow a priest to be hanged." "But shortly before I took my final vows," he continued, "when on some errand for my fat and greasy abbot, I came upon a group of mummers in a square close to the York Minster. Their music, tricks, most of all, their laughter beguiled me. Perhaps it was the devil himself who took a liking to my soul. In any case, I ran off. Like you," he added with a laugh. "But how could you abandon God?" I said. "Had he not abandoned me? It was your father, not God, who left you," I said. I must have surprised him with my words, for he grew silent, and when he spoke again, it was with less bravado. "For 10 years I traveled with those people," he said. "They became my dearest friends. We went all about the kingdom. Mind you, we lived only a tad beyond beggary, but my companions taught me better languages, the language of song, of hand, of foot, and most of all, of laughter." "Can you still be hanged then?" "Is that your hope?" he laughed. "Not as long as I can read. But I did the next best thing. I went off to be a soldier." "And abandoned your new friends?" I said. "Not abandoned, disbanded. Only St. Anthony knows where they went. Some wandered off, others lost their lives to brawls, jails, duels, or sickness. Some were lost to marriage, the wandering life, the mummer's life. It's fragile at best. He shrugged. In any case, I'd rather be alone. Then why, I faltered. Why what? Speak out. Then why do you need me? I said. In response, he reached into his sack and pulled out the leather balls again. As before, he tossed them around and round so they seemed to float about his hands. Here, he said, holding out the balls to me. Let me see how skilled you are. Me? Of course you. I can't do such things. St. Crispin, he barked, stand before me. Reluctantly, I took my place before him. Now pay attention. Beginning with one ball, he demonstrated how to toss it back and forth between his hands. He told me to do the same. I did so, clumsily at first, but under his insistent commands, I began to grasp his methods. There. Now, Bear said, watch this. He took up a second ball and, along with the first, began to throw it back and forth. Do that, he said. Tossing two balls between my hands was quite another matter. I could barely manage it. Again, he shouted, and again. When I failed, he was always severe, insisting I try over and over again, but at last the balls began to fly for me. After sitting back and watching me intently with his shrewd eyes, he said, Enough. We need to move on. You'll practice more. You'll add more balls as you go. Music, too. And I vow by the joy of Christ you'll learn it well. But why? I said. You shall see. We continued along the muddy road. This time, as he went, Bear sang at the top of his voice. Loudly sings the cuckoo. Grows the seed and blooms the meadow. Comes the spring. The woods do sing. Sing, cuckoo. Now sing, cuckoo. Sing, cuckoo. Now sing, cuckoo. Then from his sack he took out a music pipe, a recorder he called it, and began to play the same melody, after which he sang the verse again. Sing, he commanded. I don't know how. Crispin, if I bid you sing, you'll sing, he said. Haltingly, I tried. Louder! I complied, and we went along. I was convinced more than ever that Bear was mad. End of chapter 21 of Crispin, The Cross of Lead by Avi.